Hello, we are live here in the Bulk Reef Supply TV studios. I'm here with Kyle, I'm William, and we're going to answer some questions, do some normal live Q&A things. Sitting in front of this beautiful tank. If you got questions about it, let me know, I take care of it. But before we get into all the Q&A and anything going on today, that's going to be fun, I want to give you a little update as to what we're doing here at Bulk Reef Supply. So we recently, Thomas released a video on how to pack DI resin. I think this is something like a lot of people overlook. You know?
They overlook it, and I know our customer service team keeps asking for updated video on that specifically. So Tom's got around, helped us out, gave some pro tips on there. Oh, yeah. So give it a watch if you haven't already and have questions on it, but it's a really good practical guide to do it. Yeah,
my pro tip, Thomas says it, but to pack it down with some other like a receptacle or vessel or like a cup that he uses in the video. Yeah, that's the way to do it with DI.
And have a tray underneath it so I can catch all the extra beads that fall off the side.
I do it in the big trash can we have at the studio here because it is a messy job for sure, and it stinks. Another thing is that ion resin, when it gets on your fingers, it really doesn't want to come off. It's charged positively, and so it's sticking to you. I don't know why it's so sticky, but hard to get off your fingers, so definitely watch out for that with the DI resin. Another cool thing, right? We got some new things on the website.
Yes, we did. We got dolphin pumps. I know we had quite a few customers asking about a different external pump option because I think we just have had reflow for quite a while. Right. But now we got dolphin pumps, which is a great external pump alternative, which are really good for if you have a bigger system or if you have a sump down in the basement and need to get water upstairs to a second level or a different level than your sump's on. So
that's really the key with those big AC pumps. They're really good at head pressure and tons of flow. So if you have like a really long run to go through, definitely run an AC external pump. It also is nice that it keeps the heat away from your tank a lot more. And I like the Dolphin ones. I've used them in the past, and I've seen them here. They're cool pumps. They're huge though, so just keep that in mind. They're really big pumps, great for like a water mixing station. We use them here on the water mixing station, so really good option for that.
And they have a great warranty, so.
That's right. Yeah, so we got a few other things going on. I was gone. I went on vacation, went to a wedding for about a week and a half, just over a week. So all the tanks were without a tank technician. I'm the tank technician. I take care of them all here. So what did we do? Well, we had Josh. That's the key.
Yeah, Josh is the secret. Yep. But just like anyone that takes a trip away from their tank, something happens.
Yeah. So we're gone. Thankfully, nothing even close. Well, it's closely related to fish tanks, but nothing related to the tanks themselves. Our frozen fish food feeder, the GFCI outlet on it tripped, and we didn't notice. No one noticed for a while. We had a power outage and it tripped it. So all of our frozen fish food got defrosted, and according to Josh, thank you, Josh, for not sending me a picture now that I think about it. But apparently there was about a few inches of defrosted fish food in there.
Yeah, we didn't notice the first day or two because it didn't smell, but after a while, fish food does stink if it's not frozen. So
yes, I can't imagine. So
Josh is a real trooper. He deserves a gold star for going in and cleaning it up while you were gone.
Yeah, but that was really the only thing that went down. Tanks got really dirty on the glass, but they were all getting fed. So all the tanks run off of Apex. We have auto feeders on all the tanks. Well, Josh is an auto feeder for a few of the tanks, actually. That's true. Yeah. But if you have someone that counts as an auto feeder, everything's on dose. This one's on the Trident controlled dosing, so the alkalinity, calcium, magnesium didn't really fluctuate. I was watching it at home, actually. At the wedding, I actually checked my
middle of the wedding ceremony, valves going down. You're just like, okay, we're good.
I was checking. I'm always thinking about the tanks in here, so I was definitely checking on them. But the peace of mind of all the equipment running on them made it a little easier. But yeah, that was exciting. So if you're away from home, what would you do if you went for an extended period?
Definitely would have a controller like an Apex, just for peace of mind, so I can look at what's going on while I'm away. Just baseline parameters. Know that my tank's not overheating, know that my pump's working and drawing power. But I'd also have a tank sitter just to at least check in every couple days. So maybe they don't need to do anything, but just have them go there, just physically make sure it's good.
Keep an eye on it. Yep. Make sure there's no water splashing around. I'd say for more advanced, look into like the probes, like pH, ORP probe, temperature probe, salinity probe. Your temp and salinity probes can tell you a lot about what's going on about your tank when you're not there. And then the other thing too is like leak detectors. Having them around and maybe places you wouldn't think about to see if your plumbing starts leaking or something while you're away. Because of course those things happen only when you're not home, right? So
and automatic feeders.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we just did a video on that, didn't we?
Yeah, we just recorded one, so it's coming soon. But automatic feeders are a godsend when it comes to taking care of your tank while you're away.
Yeah, so that was one of the, like you said, one of the videos we just did. went over like 5 or 6 feeders that we have available and the differences between them. That IND Aquatics one, we've talked about it a few times now, is pretty cool. It does the frozen and refrigerated foods.
Honestly, that thing is probably the most exciting thing I've seen in the hobby in a couple of years, just because it's so brand new. No one else is doing it quite yet. I know there's one coming down the pipeline for somebody else, but this, they were the first to it, and it's so nice being able to automatically feed frozen food. I don't have to just do dry food.
It's really cool. It's great for big tanks when you're gone on vacation, things like that. And then we also did another video too today that we shot, right? Coral mistakes. So when you're adding a coral to your tank, what kind of common mistakes do you do? And I gotta say, we started writing these down. I think we've done literally all of them.
They come from our own personal mistakes. So we've done them, we've been there, everyone does.
Done them probably a few dozen times. The don't dip one is one I'm definitely guilty of, you know, and not mounting your coral properly.
We've all been there. Yeah. And we'll all do it again.
Yeah, definitely. But let's see what else we got. You want to get right into some Q&A?
Yeah, I think so. We got a couple questions.
Yeah, so we got some new ones coming in on this stream right now. Koiman Jim says, this last week I had to order a small step motor from China and pay the 50% tariff to get it here. How is this impacting your inventory, pricing, etc. with so much made overseas?
Well, ironically, I'm probably the one out of the two of us to answer that, because I'm on that team that's dealing with all those issues.
Yeah, I use the gear, but you definitely manage how it gets here, right?
Yeah. So, yes, tariffs are a huge impact on everything that we do in the hobby, so it's affecting pretty much every single category. A lot of it is just timing it and just hoping it comes in at the right time, and then hopefully not having to pass the prices down. We're holding off on as much as we can, but unfortunately, just with the name of the game, some of it's kind of like some people are waiting and holding on price changes, some people are going with it with minor ones, so it's not a one-size-fits-all solution for everybody, and there's always evolving ways to work with our vendors and how we can hopefully minimize the impact of tariffs until things cool off and calm down.
I think something a lot of people don't really keep in mind is that even though a lot of these products are made in the U.S., put together in the U.S., in the U.S. there's not really ways to manufacture those like little silicone chips or the other microchips that go onto the boards. Stuff has to come from overseas for a lot of this stuff, and we don't really have an option otherwise. So it's going to be affected, unfortunately. But I haven't seen, at least on the consumer side of things, it hasn't been too big of an effect as a consumer. I've seen some out-of-stock things going on, which is common when you're trying to import things.
Yeah, you're going to see a little bit of that, but I would say we're trying to not impact the end user, because we understand that reefing is a luxury hobby. It's not something that everyone has a ton of money to spend on. So where we can, we're trying to save money as best we can on our side so that we can pass that on to you guys and not have to increase prices.
Definitely, yeah. Good question. That is definitely a good question. Thank you. We got 2 questions, 2 users here. Fish Freak Phil and Moose. Any suggestion on getting vermitid snails off of old rock before reusing them in new reef build? Definitely. Watch the Thomas video, the Help I Wreck My Tank on vermitid snails. Yes. He goes over a really great detailed way. But ultimately, the key to keep in mind is those little vermitid snails, when they seal themselves into that hole, they can be in there forever, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you're trying to preserve the rock for like the biofilm and everything, if you're transferring to a new tank, but if you've torn the tank down and are setting up a new tank, if it's dried out, the snails are dead, theoretically. It's just a matter of breaking it, but it depends on how long it's been dry.
Right. It depends on how long it's been dry. So if you leave it out for a while, they'll die. Yeah. But I've heard that those vermitid snails and any of those like sessile snails that can seal themselves off can last for like months out of water. So definitely be sure to fully dry that rock out. I wouldn't bother using any chemicals if you can avoid it. I've heard of people using bleach or like hydrogen peroxide on their rocks, but you just got to be really careful when you do those kinds of things.
Exactly.
Awesome. Let's move on to some other questions. We got some previous questions here from an older live stream. We got Manuel. If I change 1 gallon in my 13-gallon tank, should I make sure the temperature is okay prior, or is it such a small amount that it's not a big deal?
Depends on how big of a temp change that is. I would say as long as you're like room temperature to standard reef tank temperature, which I would consider 74 to 80 degrees, I wouldn't worry about matching the temperature. The only time I would worry about it is if your water is for some reason at like 50 degrees, then that might be a little bit too big of a swing or change in influx in your tank's temperature. But I would only worry about it for larger water change volumes. When you get to that like 30 to 50% range, that's where it's a little bit more critical.
If you live in a place where you have seasons, maybe just pay attention when it's winter, when it's really cold, see what temperature your water is coming out of your tap before you mix that. But most of the time, you should be fine, just room temperature water.
Yeah, especially for a 1 gallon water change. I think you should be fine.
Oh, yeah. Jack Lauer says, my tank is 9 months old. I've been struggling with green hair algae for at least 5 months. Help me, please.
Well, I think that's a good one because Thomas also has a help I work my tank on hair algae, I believe.
Yes.
So he's got almost every pest.
Yeah, he's nailing them all, I think, right?
Yes.
What would you do?
So I am a big believer that your hands and you yourself as the reefer are the best cleanup crew member in the entire tank that it's ever going to see. So manually remove as much as you can, especially if it's longer. So elbow grease, a brush that is not used for any other purpose other than the tank is going to be another great tool to have at your hand. Make sure you're not feeding a ton of extra food, which is going to give it essentially a fertilizer to grow more algae more quickly. And then just make sure your cleanup crew is correct for your tank. So if your tank's a couple years old, your cleanup crew, the snails don't live forever. Right. So it might be time to replenish a little bit and look at things like a tuxedo urchin, more Trochus snails. They'll help eat the shorter stuff that's really small and that you don't really see. They'll get it before it grows too long.
Yeah, I'd say if you're wanting to add, like you said, definitely your hands are the way to go. Check the levels, your parameters to make sure that nothing's spiking or extremely elevated. But then other than that, if you want to add a critter that's going to take care of it, things like fox faces, rabbitfish will typically eat hair algae and bubble algae, actually, which is kind of fun.
Yes.
But things like sea hares, you said tuxedo urchins, pin cushion urchins, and Trochus snails are another one that I really like. Mexican turbos also do pretty good.
They eat a lot of it, but it's very spotty. My experience with those guys.
Yeah, they're very lazy grazers.
Yes.
But yeah, those are your natural additives, but really the animals aren't going to do the best job. You got to get in there. You got to change the water. You got to pull out that algae.
You have to set it up for success. Then your cleanup crew can help supplement what you're doing.
Oh, here we go. So we got a live question. Triggerfish45. Anyone else? That's good. Anyone else use an electric sander to remove super glue from their fingers after gluing frags?
Because we are a company, I cannot advocate for using gear in this way. I feel like that's just like a safety concern.
Yeah, definitely be safe when whatever you're doing. I wouldn't use anything sharp. I wouldn't use sandpaper. But honestly, like the edge of like a credit card or the edge of like a little thin sheet of metal, if you scrape it, since your skin is very flexible and the super glue is very hard, it'll usually get most of the big chunks of super glue off. Just don't use anything sharp. I've been guilty of that, and it's dangerous.
It doesn't feel good.
No, it's dangerous.
But I would also just give you a little piece of advice. Get a box of those black nitrile gloves, so when you are fragging and gluing corals, it just doesn't get on your skin in the first place. So you just take the glove off and you're good.
I go through dozens of the gloves here all the time. Yeah, that's the way to go. Make sure. One tip about that, make sure you get the ones that fit. If they're really loose, it's really hard to glue frags with the loose gloves.
And if they're too tight, they're going to have a hole and you're going to get glue in your hand anyway.
Yeah, that's a good question. I like that. All right, we'll move on. We've got Coral Reef asks, hey man, I have a horrific bloom of amphipods. Oh, no such thing. And they're eating my acan corals. Oh, maybe there is such thing. So I have a horrific bloom of amphipods and they're eating my acan corals. What can I do about this? I have a coral tray on my sand bed, and when I lifted it up today, hundreds of amphipod-looking things went running towards the rocks. Any thoughts?
I would be curious to get a photo ID of what they are, because I have not heard of amphipods actually eating a healthy coral. So my concern is maybe the acan is stressed out or has something going on where it's not actually truly healthy.
Right.
And they're just doing their job as a cleanup crew member where they're just taking care of dead or dying tissue. So in my opinion, amphipods are hard to have too many of, just like it's hard to have too many copepods.
Right.
So
I'm on the same page. I think what you're probably running into is that maybe the acan's either getting picked at or eaten by something else, or maybe it's shrinking and dying off because of another reason. And then the amphipods are cleaning that up as a good cleanup crew should do.
Yes.
But there are definitely amphipod-looking critters that could be eating your corals. So be sure to have a positive ID on whatever you're trying to ID. Yeah, that's the key.
And if you really don't like amphipods in your tank, and if you have a large enough tank to sustain it, or are willing to invest the time into feeding it, a mandarin would decimate that population.
Oh yeah, mandarin. Another honorable mention: leopard wrasses.
Yes,
they're pretty good at hunting.
Or if you want something that's a little bit hardier and have a big enough tank, Melanaris wrasse, yellow chorus wrasse, those things will also pick away at them.
Great hunters for sure. Okay, we got another question from JSIQ the Blue, or JSIQ Blue. says, hi, thank you for the great information. How often do you run your wave makers? Do you have them on a timer or let them run 24 hours?
24 hours.
24 hours, yeah. So this is a good example. This tank here has 6 wave makers. There's 2 gyres, 2 MP60s, and then the 2 tunsies in the front here. All of them are running 24/7, but they're all running on a pattern. So the front 2 in here, and then the 2 MP60s are going to run opposite, and so that's going to create kind of a back and forth flow, and then the gyres are more consistent to get that current going on in the tank.
Yeah, so a lot of pumps nowadays are DC controllable, so you can set different wave patterns where you can do like a random mode, pulse mode. Just run 24/7, and then you can also usually do a feed mode if you want to turn them off for feeding, or if you're doing a water change. Feed mode is usually the way to just like turn it off temporarily, but unless you have a lot of pumps, I wouldn't recommend having them off for any prolonged period of time because your corals do need flow in order to do anything that they're doing.
Absolutely.
So that's how they get oxygen, that's how they get rid of waste, that's how they get food, and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, very important to have flow in there. Also, we mentioned it in the aquascaping video that we just did. It's really important to consider the amount of flow and high flow, low flow for the corals as well.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we got another question from Percy Jackson. Could you do with information? What could you do with information on the actual tank holes? Does everyone drill their own tank, as it seems uncommon when I look online for aquariums with pre-drilled holes? It also seems 4 holes is best, but on the aquariums I do see with pre-drilled, there's often only 2, but the suction can get blocked. Right, so on a custom tank, if you want just a custom tank where you're gonna put the holes in yourself, the more the better. 4 holes in your overflow is gonna be great. It'll be your the dual stand herby, right, and then your emergency, and then you get the return line to come back through the overflow. So that is what I would go with. But in terms of like why you don't see it as commonly, I think it comes down to efficiency and making it and cost. It's a lot easier to put 2 holes in the tanks, and with the designs of overflows nowadays, it's not nearly as necessary.
I will also say nowadays, a lot of people are going with prefab tanks, so they're going with the Red Sea, the Water Box, the Innovative Marine, that are already pre-drilled, have the overflow box.
They come with all the plumbing, everything.
All the plumbing. So there's not a lot of people that are doing the do-it-yourself version where they're getting a tank custom made or having holes drilled prefabbed into it.
Right.
So you're not going to see that as much as you did 15, 20 years ago, where everyone was doing a DIY or transforming a tank from Petco into a reef tank. And people are also doing a lot more nano tanks and all-in-ones. So those don't require any drilling at all.
Yeah, so like those prefab tanks, they come with all the stuff you need already. You don't need extra holes. And then if you're getting a custom one, nowadays I think most of the time they're gonna ask you what you want. Some of them like glass cages, you're gonna fill out a whole form, picking where you want the holes, what size you want the holes. You can talk with them, call them, and they can help give advice. But overall, if you want more, usually nowadays in custom tanks, that's available.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, looks like we got another question here from Jared B. I bought a Magnus Curve 5 Elite when I set up my tank about 10 months ago. Went through the normal break-in, and it was skimming perfectly for so long. All of a sudden, it's constantly overflown. It is constantly overflown. I have completely broke it down, tried to go through the break-in period again, put an air valve in it, lowered the water level, and for the life of me, I can't get it to stop overflowing. Huh, okay. Is it making bubbles still would be my first question. When you say it's overflowing, is it water overflowing or is it the mix overflowing? That is odd. If you've raised it, I mean, skimmers really are a pretty simple machine. If you keep raising it, it should eventually technically stop overflowing. Now, if it's not, I would say there's something maybe wrong with the skimmer impeller or something like that.
Also, 10 months ago, your bioload probably was different. I'm just assuming you started this with a brand new tank. Probably had like 2 clownfish at the start, and now you may have like 10 or 12 fish at this point. So your bioload might be different, so you may need to adjust the gate valve. I can't remember if the Curve Elite has the gate valve for adjusing the output. I'm pretty sure it does.
I'm not sure, but it looks like they added one anyways.
Yeah. Well, they have an air valve, I know.
Oh, an air valve into
they
the air
added
intake.
One, yeah.
Yep.
But if you have the gate valve to open and close the output of the skimmer to adjust like the collection level or where the water-air interface is, I would open that back up all the way and then slowly close it to retune your skimmer.
Okay. And it looks like they replied, said, yes, it's bubbles mixed with the air overflowing. So if that's the case, it's definitely probably not the impeller then. It's probably mixing the air into the water properly. The other thing I've heard is if you have any chemicals in your water, it can cause...
ChemiClean.
Yep. Yeah, ChemiClean will do it. A lot of things will do it. One thing I've found is that if you've added something recently or changed something around, if you start collecting all the water that starts overflowing, eventually it'll stop overflowing. I've noticed it'll pull all of the medication or whatever you've added out of the water with the skimmer. So that's an option. You can keep collecting the overflow until it stops. Yeah, I would say there's probably something in the water is my guess.
Yeah. So something in the water, it may just need a deep cleaning. I don't know if you've like completely broken it down and given it a deep cleaning.
Yeah, completely broke it down. So, I mean, try it again. Try breaking it down again. Make sure the impeller's all cleaned.
Yeah, and if you're still stuck, I would just recommend shooting our customer service team an email, live chat, or give them a phone call.
Shoot us pictures.
Yeah.
Pictures for that issue, yeah. If there's nothing, I have used ChemiClean, but that should have been removed with carbon. It should remove with carbon, but it doesn't always get all of it. Try what I was saying, where collect some of that overflow and see if it'll stop after. I've gone through about 5 gallons worth of overflow before. So see if you can collect it in a bucket, and then try replacing that water with new water.
And change your carbon a couple more times, do a water change, and that should help bring it back in line. But otherwise, like I said, contact our support team. They can help give you some more insight too. Yeah,
let us know your parameters, pictures, everything like that. We can definitely help you out. Awesome. Thank you, Jared. Hopefully we helped you out. If you got more questions, let us know. We've got a question from Mike saying, would it be okay to run ozone 24/7 at 350 ORP maximum on an Apex? So personally, I don't like running ORP 24/7 really ever. I know that in like public aquariums and things like that, they do basically 24/7, 365.
Large volume.
But yeah, we're not the same as a public aquarium. So unless you got a few thousand gallons running in your home, I'd probably recommend selecting a time frame and running it for that. On this tank, our time frame is about 6 hours, which is on the long side, honestly. 4 hours would be a pretty good time frame.
Yeah, I don't ever do 24/7 on ORP ozone. I just like having a set window, run the ozone, because the effect is pretty effective. It does not take much for it to actually get all the benefits in your reef.
Right, definitely. Let's see. Yeah, if you got any questions, put them down in the chat. We'll be happy to answer them, discuss it with you. Let us know. So we'll keep going. We got a question from Aaron Minton. So can I use distilled water for my saltwater tanks? If so, that'll be a lifesaver when making trips to my buddies for RO, and it's rough getting it some days when he's not free.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Distilled water is a great alternative. I will say sometimes it is more expensive than just having your own RODI system, because you are paying for like $1.19 or something per gallon. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, your local fish store might have an RODI system where they sell just RODI water by itself, or pre-mixed salt water too. So,
and you can install like the BRS RODI units that we offer. You can install them just on your like a faucet on the sink. You can mine at home, since I live in an apartment. I can't install it under the sink permanently. I have it fully removable. You just unscrew it, undo a fitting, and it's good to go. So I keep it in a closet. So even if maybe you feel like you don't have the opportunity for an RO, you probably do. If you have the space for a fish tank, you probably have the space for an RO.
The 4 stage is not very big.
It's very small.
It covers a lot of people.
And it'll totally save you money. Yeah. And Matthew did an install video on the 4 stage. That's the one that we're just talking about. It's super easy to install. You have lots of options. And yeah, it'll save you money if you're running distilled water eventually.
Yes, it will.
All right, so the next question we got here, middle-aged Mike asked, does my sump count as an Aperture farm?
Absolutely.
I think are farms intentional? Do they have to be intentional?
You can have an accidental farm.
You can have an accidental farm. It's an Aperture farm, I'd say, if you have something that eats Aperture, and if not, it's just a pest factory.
Yeah.
I'd say definitely one of those two.
Yeah. But it can count if you want it to.
Yeah, totally.
We can give you the Aperture farm badge.
A professional anemone grower.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Sandy G asks, how does the bacteria on the rock help the corals? Well, that's a loaded question, isn't it?
That is something for a biologist, a marine biologist. microbiologist to answer thoroughly in depth.
The hobby answer to it, I guess, would be that the bacteria on your rocks is going to help stabilize your aquarium. It's going to help keep the parameters in which the corals need to utilize to grow and thrive in check. It'll keep your pH at a proper number, right, for example, and a bunch of the other elements.
It'll process waste in the aquarium for you. The other benefit, similar to how we have probiotic bacteria in our guts to help digest things, corals have the same thing going on, as do most organisms, so it's going to help them with digestion. There are also bacteria that they actually just literally consume as a part of the food chain.
Right.
Also, if you have beneficial bacteria, a lot of bacteria do fight for real estate on the reef, including the pathogenic bacteria that are problems like Vibrio and stuff like that.
Right.
Your biome will help stave off and balance the population in favor of healthy corals and fight off those disease-causing or infection-causing bacteria that are problematic.
Yeah, so that's what all those like bottle bacteria are for. It's not just a silly thing. They are important. You definitely should be using them or should have a balanced bacteria population in your tank.
Yes.
We got some new questions. Nameless Moneybox Digital Media Company says, any tips for a guy building a 75-gallon Petco tank with a 20-gallon sump?
How long do you got?
Got lots of tips for you, actually. That was my first tank. I did a 55-gallon Aquarium with I think it was a 15-gallon sump. So yeah, I was right on that same page. Lots of tips. What do you want to start off?
So I would start off with, I don't know if the tank, I'm assuming the tank probably is not drilled. So
I doubt it.
I would when you drill the tank, double check and make sure which paint is not tempered.
Yeah.
So don't drill tempered glass because you will regret it and have a tank that you can't use.
Yeah. So you grab some like sunglasses, some polarized sunglasses, and your phone screen. Put the sunglasses on and grab the phone screen. Turn it while it's behind the glass, and it should. You should only see the screen sometimes. If you never see the screen, the glass is polarized. Or the tempered. Sorry, the glass is tempered.
So I would recommend that, and also assuming that you are drilling it yourself as well, when you come up with your plumbing plan, draw out a diagram and measure things like 6 times. And then count how many times you need an elbow, add a couple extra to every fitting that you think you need, just so especially if you're buying it online, like from us, buy a couple extra fittings, just that way you're not like, you don't go through, get all set up, and then you're like, oh, I need 6 more elbows because I didn't count right.
Yep.
So measure twice, count twice, and then put it all together once.
And order once.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, for sure. On top of that, for the sump, I would say make it really simple. Use some very simple acrylic baffles or use like the Fiji Cube kit for your 20-gallon sump.
Or if you want to go even simpler, you can use like the Aqua Mesh.
Yep, there's some Aqua Mesh shoved in there. But just keep it really simple. I'd say people try and get really complicated with their weirs and things like that, and you don't need it. You certainly don't need it.
I find myself, I'm at a place in the hobby, I've been through a bunch of different sumps that have all the bells and whistles, and honestly now I'm just like, I wish someone would just make a mass-produced, simple glass sump rather than having all these baffles in the way, because I'm like, well, these baffles are in the way, I can't do the skimmer I want, or I don't have enough room for this. So kind of think about your filtration wants and desires before you lay any baffles out.
Definitely.
So if you know you want a refugium, make sure you have space for it. Don't just like glue baffles in and then be like, oh, my refugium is this narrow.
Yeah, check how big your return pump is, your skimmer, all these things. Yeah, definitely. Plan out, basically. Go slower than you'd expect. Patience in this hobby is key.
Yeah.
But thank you. We got another question. Jacob says, tell Aqua UV and Tropic Marin to do a Labor Day sale.
Listen, I wish every brand would do a Labor Day sale.
They better do a Labor Day sale.
But unfortunately, not every vendor wants to do Labor Day. Some are relegated to just doing like Black Friday. That's just like their one big time of year to do it. Aqua UV's like hardly ever goes on sale, but generally they hit it big with Black Friday. So
yeah. Well, I'd say Tropic Marin's probably definitely one of those ones that I'm willing to pay full price for.
Yeah.
They got some cool product out there. Yeah.
Yes. Both of them actually have really good gear.
Yeah.
I know Tropic Marin might do some things on Labor Day. I can't remember. I have to double check.
I'm not sure. You have to go check.
I don't need to buy anything right now, so I haven't.
No, I try not to look at the sales because then I buy things and that's a problem.
Yeah, my paycheck goes away really quick.
Yeah, but no, a UV and some Tropic Marin. I like the little chemicals from Tropic Marin, all the additives. Yeah, great brands. All right, Mike says, my pH is at 8.01 at its lowest. During the day, it peaks at 8.46. Is that a big swing, or is it okay for SPS?
I'm going to say you're okay with SPS.
I'd say you're okay, yeah. This tank, as you can see, has a few SPS in it, and it also swings about that much, actually. It's almost exactly 0.3 of a swing.
Only a few SPS?
Only a few, yep. Just a few, as big as my head, at least.
Yes.
That's what I meant, yeah. My tank at home swings between like 7.9 and 8.5.
Okay, that's a big swing.
Yeah, my house is pretty warm. But other than that, yeah, I'd say the swing's very normal. You can balance or lower the swing out by adding your refugium on a light schedule, the opposite light schedule of your display, but this is a pretty, like this tank's on that schedule already, and it's swinging about this much. It's a very normal amount of swing.
Or if you're needing a dose to calculate for alkalinity and calcium, you can do Calquester at night.
Yep.
And that'll boost the pH over the night while your tank lights are off.
Yeah, great options. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about it, especially if your corals are looking good. Don't mess with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, we got another question from double quarter pounder witches? Sandwiches?
No, I want a quarter pounder.
Now, come on. Dang it.
Thank you.
Is there such a thing as too many copepods? Oh man, I feel like I've read this question before.
No such thing in my opinion.
There's no such thing. It's a free food source for all your fish. Basically, they're alive, so they're not polluting or creating waste.
Well, they do have waste, but
tiny bit. They're not dying off.
They're cleaning up more than they are causing an issue with your tank.
Yeah, great cleaners. Something people don't really realize is they clean.
Yes.
Like they actually clean. They'll clean your rocks and get everything all nice and sparkly.
Yeah, they're the ones that are working inside your rock work, getting any of the uneaten food that goes into the rock pores. So
no such thing as too many. I'd say the only thing is too little.
Yeah, too little. I just like having them a lot, especially if you have mandarin.
Yeah.
Good excuse for one of the prettiest fish in my opinion.
I like checking them out at night. Them and the amphipods crawling around at night. It's always fun to look at. Awesome. Thank you for the question. All right, we got George Juarez asks, how would you guys light up a 4 foot by 4 foot cube tank, 36 inches tall for an SPS dominant?
How do you want to tackle this? Because there are so many different ways to light this.
Oh man. Okay, so I just opened and I'm obsessed with the ATI Stratton.
Yeah.
Flex, those new flexes, and I think you could put a few of them side by side.
Could do that. You could go with the pros.
Yep.
You
could do
really
the pros.
Panels. I don't know.
4 panels.
I just don't know which one has better depth penetration. That's my only concern with the 36 inches deep.
Okay.
And SPS dominant. If you're doing like acros at the bottom of the tank,
right,
you might need some punching power from something like a Kessil A500,
right,
or an XR30 with the narrow angle lens. So I'm just like, there's too many ways to go about this. But
you know what? I'm changing my answer. Actually, I'm gonna go with the A500s because when you get 36 inches tall and you put those spotlight lights onto it, it looks really, really cool.
Yeah. I would really need some time to think about this, but I would end up probably going like a hybrid approach where I'm not using just one light to cover it all. So I would probably go something where I have like either the Strattons or Radion XR30s with the narrow angle lens just to get better depth penetration, but I would combine them with something like the Kessil to get a couple spotlights in key spots.
Yeah.
And also just add some extra shimmer and just visual effect to the tank.
Even those A360 XEs, the new ones with the narrow lens kit, those things are going to pack a punch way deep too.
Yeah, so I would go a blended approach. Also, probably wouldn't hurt to do a couple of the Orphic icons.
Oh, the bars?
No, or the full fixtures in there.
Oh, yeah.
Because they also have a pretty narrow angle lens, so if you get them lower in the tank, they can
nice.
get pretty good with depth penetration. So
yeah, you have a few options, but you definitely can't just grab a light and stick it on there at 4x4 with 36 inches. You got to be choosy.
Yeah, I wish I could just sit down and like give you a whole thought-out answer about like where I place each light, but
right. I definitely think it's also going to come down to preference too. If you like that shimmer, or you like the more flat, muted look like T5s. So lots of options out there, but definitely let us know what you go with. I'm actually curious. That's a huge tank.
I want to send some photos to our customer service team. I really want to see this tank.
Yeah, 4x4 by 36.
Yeah.
4x4 by 3.
Just tell them that Kyle and Will want to see this once it's set up.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. The flow in that tank is going to be a nightmare, huh?
Yeah.
You got to get a lot of gyres going around in circles.
They might need some dolphin pumps.
Might need some, closed loop.
Yeah.
And that'll be fun.
Just an idea.
All right, we got another question. Thanks for that question, by the way. We got another question. Brian says, when I fill my trash cans with RODI water, TDS is 0, but my heater, power head, and the wires after a few days are slimy.
That's called the bacterial film.
Yeah.
So bacteria are in the air and are adaptable to a wide variety of different places. Even if you have 0 TDS, there is dust and lint and stuff that will over time just add phosphates and other particles to the tank or to the water that it's in. So that just gives food for bacteria to grow, and that just is a part of having water sitting. It's all going to turn into a place where life starts.
Yeah, I will say you say after a few days, that's pretty quick to be growing slime. I'd say probably clean your barrel out. While it is being fed 0 TDS water, like you said, the dust and stuff gets in there, and over time it'll start to build up. I clean our barrel out every 6 months or so, and that keeps it really good. And I just clean it with citric acid, rinse it all the way down, dry it all the way out, fill it back up, and you should be just fine. Same thing goes with your heater, power head, and wires. But also, don't heat your water until you need to use it. That'll help slow it down a lot.
Yeah, lower temperature means things grow a lot slower.
Yeah, keep that heater off until you need to mix that salt up. All right, we got another question from Nameless Money Box Digital Media Company. One last question. I heard Life Rock doesn't grow coralline as fast. Is that true? Because if so, I'll go with straight Marco rocks.
I think that's a bit of a tricky situation because when you have a purple rock, you don't see the purple coralline algae growing as quick as you would on a white rock like the Marco rocks, where it's stark white. You're going to see the purple really obviously.
Yep.
On a purple rock that's colored purple like the Mr. Coralline or Marco rock, the coralline rock either. You're not going to see it as quickly. It's going to take a lot more coralline to actually visually see that it's growing.
Yeah, and same thing, like I think all the rocks are kind of the same. It really depends on the tank itself. I've found that some tanks you set up with Marco rock, the bright white rock, and in 3 months it's covered. But I've also set them up and it takes about a year for them to cover. So there's a lot of factors that go into how fast coralline is going to grow on it. I will say if it's porous, coralline will grow on it pretty quickly.
It will.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, another question from Triggerfish45. If you're aware of the famous painting of the 4 dogs playing poker, if you were to recreate that picture with marine fish or inverts, what for?
Okay, I like the theoretical
This is a good question. This is
fun. Okay.
So for me, I do know that painting. The pug. Is it a pug or is it a bulldog?
I think there's a pug. Is there a Rottweiler? I can't remember all 4 breeds.
The big one in the center though, normally has the cigar going, is definitely a dog face puffer.
Oh yeah,
me. Definitely a dog face puffer. What else we got going on in there?
What else would I do besides a dog face puffer? I would have to do a mandarin just because they're iconic and they have such a weird face. If you put it like it was sitting down, I think it would look really funny, but also super colorful.
It'd be pretty good. Yeah. And then I'd say, man, that's a hard one. Harlequin. Harlequin, like a tuskfish.
Oh, is it like Harlequin filefish?
No.
Shrimp
would be pretty cool.
I think some fish in there, or some of the dogs look like they mean business. I think we need like a serious fish.
What is it? Maybe there's an eel in there.
Serious,
like a big
eel, or like a sohal tang.
Like a big bully, like a leader of the pack of the fish. Okay, maybe a Valentini. Yeah, unicorn tang, something like that.
I think you should comment what 4 you would do.
Yeah, what do you guys think
I'm curious.
should be there? I think we're maybe a little more lame than what the chat could come up with.
Hey, I want to hear some ideas.
I like the dog face
and
puffer.
Now I'm going to look at
maybe it's just 4 dog face puffers.
Just 4 different color varieties.
And all the cards are clownfish cards.
Yeah. But aside from commenting what 4 things you would put in that painting instead of dogs, you should also be asking your questions in the chat.
Yeah, ask us questions.
We like these. It does not matter. It
doesn't have to be serious questions. No. We'll
you can ask us what we have for lunch today. That's great.
Oh man, don't do that. I forgot already. All right, Sandy G. We already got this question. Let's go. Pub WVG. With well or spring water, is there any benefit to the carbon blocks in the filter? Yeah, totally. Yeah, definitely. I'd say it's more so important. In city water, a lot of the stuff gets filtered out by your city and then gets added back in. But with well water, you have no clue. You have a filter going on in your well usually, but other than that, you don't really know what's coming out of the water.
Yeah, the carbon block is doing more than just chlorine and chloramine removal.
Yeah.
Granted, that's the primary purpose in like a city water application. It's going to help remove any discoloration in the water, any tannins, yellowing, pigments, and stuff like that. So aside from your sediment filter physically catching some debris, the carbon is going to help get rid of any discoloration and just further add purification.
Yeah.
And it also means that your reverse osmosis membrane won't have to work quite as hard. So it just helps improve longevity of everything downstream from
that's the expensive part is that RO membrane. The longest you can have that RO last, the cheaper your RODI will be to operate. Thank you. We got another question from Christopher Matthews. Do Ghanies want high or low flow? And I know who to ask because you had some of the biggest, craziest ganies in this office for a while, huh?
Yeah, I will say that is a question that is right both ways you answer it in my experience.
Okay.
So my ganies I've had in different environments. I will say I've typically noticed they're a little bit happier with a medium to high flow, just because if there are low flow, sure they do puff up and look more extended, but I've found that when they do retract to do whatever they need to with like shedding slime or if they're growing or anything like that, they do take longer to recover.
Okay.
They also, I don't know, I just prefer the look when they have the tentacles are not quite as puffed up and look inflamed.
Right.
I like them looking a little bit skinnier and like flowing a bit more.
They get the long, skinny ones with the long tentacles going on.
Yeah,
Usually
then they're waving it. I think that just is visually more appealing than seeing it just puffed up and not moving at all.
Yeah, I've had an easier time with them in high flow as well. I think that's also due to like if you keep them on the sand or you keep them kind of in a divot, a lot of detritus collects at the very edge of them, and then sometimes it recedes a little bit, and then they'll start to grow over that detritus, and it recedes. So yeah, definitely some more flow to kick up that detritus around them as well.
The only reason that I would find low flow advantageous is if you have two specimens that actually don't get along. So
oh, yeah, you had those.
I had one green one that just no matter which of the other ganies I had in the tank, if it touched any of them, the other ones would start receding.
Yeah.
Because that one would sting the crap out of those.
Yeah.
So that's the only situation which low flow would be nice, where that way it's not like blowing into another coral. It's just going to be puffed up, and I can kind of gauge how big it's going to puff up to be,
right.
and then space the corals accordingly.
Awesome. Yeah. Great. Great question, Matthew or Christopher. Thank you. Triggerfish with another great question. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of reefers? All right, so
oh God.
I have two. I'll go for two of them.
Two?
Yeah, definitely James Fathertree, who wrote all about clams.
Okay.
That's the way I know him, at least. He wrote all about tridacna clams, and I have his book on tridacna clams, and I've read it probably 10 times. It's one of my favorite, and I think he was a real big pioneer in like the hobby side of keeping clams, because there was always kind of the food side of keeping tridacna,
yes,
but never the hobby side. So he's really interested. And then the easy one and obvious one that is on all of our minds, I imagine, is Julian Sprung.
Okay.
I had most of his books growing up. Probably not. He's written a lot of books.
I
had a lot of his books growing up, I should say.
That's a lot of books.
There's a lot of books. And I've seen his mangrove displays at Reefapalooza. Yeah, he's definitely a very, very influential person in this industry. But those are two more modern names, I'd say.
So if I was going to pick two more, I would say Jake Adams.
Yep.
So he was a huge influence on me reefing, and just huge influence on like how I designed my systems, how I cared for the corals I had. I am very, very, very passionate about like just the natural environment these corals and fish come from. And he had a very unique perspective, and he dove in reefs around the world. So he knew where these corals came from, and some of the corals that he had in the studio at the time were things that he hand collected. So he had a whole story behind like, I dove in the Solomon Islands and I got this little frag that I found on the sand, and just like, this is exactly where it came from. So he had a lot of information on just the biology and all of the life stuff, but he also had like a really unique perspective on just equipment and keeping things super simple. So you don't need 20 outlets to have a reef tank. You can keep a reef tank with 5 outlets, and you'll still find success. So huge influence on me personally. And then I would say another one that's up there would probably be Greg Carroll.
Okay.
So like when I first got in the hobby and I was like on Reef Central, seeing his tank of the month was like, I was like, okay, I need SPS and I want a 180 gallon tank. I just want to mimic what he had because it was show stopping. And even his new tank is absolutely stunning. Like I can't.
I love checking. I watch him on all his lives all the time, and you know, I watch all of that. All of his content is great.
Yeah. So if I'm ever out in California, I hope he gives me an invite to go see it in person.
Yeah, definitely. Another shout out, I'll say, one that influenced me a lot, Ryan Batchelor.
Yeah.
Ryan.
I feel like that one was like we didn't have to say it. I think it's just like obvious.
Right. Yeah. I grew up watching him. You know, what my intro into the hobby and how I got into it was the first 52 weeks of reefing, and so he's definitely been. He deserves a spot up there.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think it's like at the crown, like the peak of it, because he was right down the road from me. So when I first started, I could like physically come here and pick my orders up.
Yeah, now we're right here.
And then before I started here, I was in college, I was working at like Kona Grill. I served him. I was like, is this the Ryan Batchelor?
Oh, you saw him at the... Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. Yeah, those would be our Mount Rushmore. I'd say that good choices. I like.
Yeah, if we had an extra face, it's fine.
That's okay. Christopher Matthews asks, when would you add your first clam in a tank, and what species? That's a fun question.
I would. I'm expert. So.
Yeah, I'd say sooner the better. Honestly, a lot of people think that they're hard to keep. They're really easy. Most of the time, if a clam passes away in your care, well, if something passes away in our care, usually it's our fault, unfortunately. Yeah. But I'd say add it right away. There's some things you want to keep in mind. Anything that's like a really aggressive cleanup crew, like some bigger hermit crabs and stuff, could irritate and pull at the clam's foot. I've seen that happen quite a bit, and same with crabs too. They love pulling at the clam's foot, especially the new clams. So yeah, I just say whenever you really want, after your cycle is completed, you're good to go. They're very adaptable for lighting. It's just turn your lighting down to an acclimation mode, and you're good to go. I wouldn't even bother watching the par too much as long as you turn out the light. And then as terms of what species of clam, you have an opinion? I have a few. But
I feel like you have a few. I think like Maximas, Croceas, and Durasas are probably the most commonly kept.
Yeah.
The others get like huge, and they do have the name giant clam for a reason in all the species, but those are the ones I would go for. If I was going to add any other tip, I would also recommend don't get a super tiny clam because they need to be fed phytoplankton.
Yes.
So unless you're ready to dedicate to phytoplankton dosing until it's like 2 inches or more.
About 2 to 3, yep, yeah, exactly.
I would get a slightly larger clam for a better chance of success, especially if it's your first clam.
Yeah, definitely. Anything under 3 inches, feed it phytoplankton basically every day. It's going to increase the success rate of that. In terms of which clams, Crocea is going to be a really, really high light clam. Maximas are also going to be up there with pretty high light. So Crocea wants like 300 plus par, whereas a Maxima is going to be around 200 to 400 par. So if you have a lot of light, those are great options because you really just need to provide what they need. They're very easy to take care of as long as you provide that. The Durasas are really, really easy. They sit on your sand. They can live in most light, and they're super simple to take care of. And then honorable mention, Hippopus clams. They don't have a mantle, so that's the little part that sticks out over the clamshell, but they're really easy to take care of as well, and they're even hardier against those kind of things that pick at them because there is no mantle. Angelfish or wrasses like to pick at the mantle sometimes, so Hippopus might be a cool one, but they're brown.
Yes.
They don't come in colors.
Also something that I've found that's super fun, mainly because I'm like a wrasse guru. I love wrasses so much, but if you keep clams and have any concern about pyramid snails, leopard wrasses are my favorite go-to for taking care of those.
Yeah.
Like the leopard wrasses I've always kept with them are always like around the clam, especially if I add a new clam. They're like, oh, it's dinner time.
Oh, they're cleaning.
Yeah.
They're protective, yeah. No, great point there. Clean up, check your clams. Yeah, check your clams for pyramid snails when you get them. Like I said, the only way that they don't make it in your tank is if you get a bad one to begin with or something hurts it somehow. Yeah. All right, we got a question from Double Quarter Pounder Sandwiches, something like that. There's no vowels. Best tip to enhance my chances of getting my clownfish to host my sea anemone?
There are so many tips out there.
Have you had any of them work?
I have never actually had to use them. My clownfish have always just been like, they want something to live in that is not a piece of equipment. So whether it be gonies, frog spawns, anemones, they just go for it. I granted the maroon clownfish I had, they did take like a couple weeks, but they did it on their own. I didn't do anything to get them to go in the bubble tips. So first tip I would go with is find the anemone that's the natural host to the clownfish in the wild.
Yes.
So if you're keeping Ocellaris and Percocula clownfish, unfortunately the rainbow bubble tips of the world are not the natural host.
Nope. They've never seen one of those before in nature, that's for sure. And
they're probably kept with red, but there's just like no instinctual nature to go into that specific species. So if you did like a Gigantea or Magnifica, probably a higher chance of success. I'm not advocating if you're new to anemones to go out and get those because they are super hard to take care of.
Challenging, yes.
But natural host anemone would be like the first step to like making highest chance of success with that. Secondly, I would do like get an image from like Google, print it off that has the clownfish.
The funny one. Yep.
Has the clownfish in anemone, and just put it wherever they're hanging out. So if they're hanging out in the like upper right hand corner of your tank, put the image there, and then they might start connecting some dots. I don't know exactly like what prompts it, if it's just time or if it's actually like, okay, I see that.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure either, but I've never had luck with that, but I've seen plenty of people have luck with that, and I've been told that it works. I'm just not lucky enough, I guess. So it is still like a bit of a gamble, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the tip that I've had work the best when I've given people advice.
Right.
It's usually that one.
Yeah, I give that one too, but I've never had it work for myself, but I still give the advice.
Otherwise, if you are able to catch your clownfish that are in the tank already and you get a piece of PVC pipe, dump the clownfish down the PVC pipe and have the other end that's in your tank drop right into the anemone.
Yep.
Sometimes that is all they need. They just need the nudge to go right in the anemone and they're like, oh, this is actually really comfortable. I'm going to just stay here.
That's the one that works for me. Yeah, so I don't know where I even got it. I have about a 3 foot long, maybe 4 inches across clear acrylic tube, so it's fully clear. And you stick that right onto the anemone, the anemone sitting there, throw all the clowns in there. That works every time for me. But yeah, I've never had great luck.
Or if you don't have a tube, get a specimen container, like an anemone specimen container.
Oh yeah.
Put the anemone in there, and then get your clownfish. Also put them in there. They don't have a whole lot of room to go anywhere else but in the anemone, and then they figure it out. So those are a couple of the pro tips I would do. I had to go through this with Matthew when we were doing Hello Reef initially. We were trying to figure out all the tips that we could find. And then Matthew went through and tested them all, and he was just like,
try speaking to them softly.
Yes. Yeah. Just whisper at night. You want the anemone.
You want to go in that.
Yes.
It's a safe area. No, I tend to have a lot of trouble with that. So I understand the question. Good luck. Good luck to that. Mike, how would I get rid of some pallies that are multiplying excessively? It's in an SPS dominant tank. Will they eventually kill SPS coral? Yes.
Really? In my experience, I haven't had them kill off a coral. They end up just like getting to the base and then they just stop.
Really?
For me.
Okay, so
I don't know if it's just been that I've had a really aggressive acros that just say, no, we're not. Right. You're not doing this today.
I guess it's going to depend on what kind of pallies. I've had the big grandest ones that they kind of just grow up to the edge. But some of the smaller ones, the little brown or the yellow ones especially, are pretty aggressive.
The Mohawk zoanthus are like my issue. Like I have put.
Oh, okay.
When I first started here, someone was like, yeah, you want these like designer zoas? I'm like, I have not had zoas prior to working here for like years. So it's like, I'm over that phase. Someone's like, oh, these really cool Mohawks. So I get a designer like collector one. This is like when they first became a designer Zoa. Like, oh yeah, sure. Those are like $100 a pop.
Right.
6 months later, my tank was just Mohawk zoanthids, and I was like, not even the prettiest one. So.
Yeah. So if I've had bad experience with them covering SPS or stinging SPS, but I guess it's going to depend on the Zoa. It's going to depend on the Palithoa that you have.
And the SPS that you're talking about.
And the SPS that you're talking about. If it's acros, delicate acros, maybe the smoother skinned acros, I'd probably definitely not want anything stinging that flesh. And in terms of how do you manage it or how do you get rid of it, it's going to be a lot of manual removal. I'd say
careful though. You don't want to juice the tank with palitoxin.
Yeah, I'd say go very small. Run carbon while you're doing it. Do very small amounts at a time. If it's really stuck on there, you might need to get in there with like bone cutters and just rip a small section of it off at a time. But like you said, you don't want to gas your tank with Palithoa toxin. So just be slow and steady with that. And another great mention is covering it up with something, right? So you can use like Frank's F. Aptasia. I don't think you can use E. Marco underwater. I think it has to be out of water.
Yeah.
But any kind of epoxy, like any 2-part epoxy, you can just cover the pallies in that, and eventually it'll die off. If you can manage to get the rock out, you can cut the rock apart, and you can donate those pallies to someone else. Lots of options.
Or just take the rock out entirely, put it in a new piece of rock structure.
Yep.
Or if you have someone in your local reef club that says, my regal angelfish is a Zoa muncher, and I love Zoas, so I'm getting rid of the fish. Might be an opportunity to see if he'll munch your Zoas.
Yeah.
And just get rid of them for you. So.
Yeah, so a dwarf angel is a good option. Usually they don't touch your SPS acros. Usually, yeah.
It's always hit or miss. But that is one thing to consider. I've seen a lot of people like in our local reefing club where they have some collector Zoas and they have a really nice, with caution fish.
Yeah.
And it happens to go up to the Zoas but does not touch their SPS. That would be like a gold mine where, okay, I'll get that.
Right. Yeah.
Because I don't want the Zoas and I want the SPS. So.
Yes. Yeah. No, those would be a great addition. All right, we got another question. Frank Scalise, can you use the Core 7 with Kalkwasser? Triton Core 7?
Yes.
Yes and no. Yeah, definitely.
I'd say it depends on exactly why you're using the system. So if you're using like the true Triton method, I would not recommend using the kalkwasser because the Core 7 is designed to have all the trace elements in ratio with the refugium in use. Adding alkalinity and calcium with the kalkwasser is going to throw off the ratio that you're dosing, so you're not quite doing it appropriately. But if we're talking, you're just using Core 7 because you like Triton's additives and you're using it just for the alkalinity, calcium, general maintenance part, then sure, go ahead and use the kalkwasser. But the Triton Core 7 also does have a pretty good pH boost on its own, so you might not even need the kalkwasser.
Yeah, so if you're using the Triton Core 7 other methods is what the basic one's called, then you could use kalkwasser, but you shouldn't need it. If you're running into the need for kalkwasser, I would be looking into why. Because the Triton should buffer your pH. It should have everything that kalkwasser does for your tank already. Exactly. And then I definitely wouldn't use it if you're using the Core method, which is their Core 7.
Yes.
And that's running on this tank, and so basically we just run the 4 additives and normal filtration like skimmer, refugium, roller mat, those kinds of things. Awesome, thanks for the question. And we got another question here. We're gonna do, this is the last one we're gonna do here. Victor Fernandez. I purchased a toadstool leather coral about a month ago and have relocated it twice already as I cannot get it to extend its polyps for more than a couple days. I'm a little concerned about moving it another time as I read leather corals do not like to be moved around too much. What would you do?
That was a lot to take in. Okay.
So if it's opening and then closing, I would just leave it where it is. If it opens once and then closes, it's probably just irritated from the move itself. It's going to probably shed some of its flesh, or it's a slime layer, and then it probably should open back up. I've noticed when you add a toadstool specifically, or any of those with the polyps that come out of the leather, they take like a week or so to open sometimes.
Yeah. Also, if you're moving it around, it has to adapt to the new environment every time you move it. So I would advise just leaving it be for now. Run some carbon, because if you have other soft corals in the tank, there might be some chemical warfare going on between the coral species that could be further irritating it. But it's probably just trying to shed, and every time you move it, you're probably interrupting that process a little bit. So just give it a few weeks to sit, relax, adapt, and do whatever it's trying to do with the shed.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for watching. That was the live. You guys have a good day.